If you've ever mixed vocals, you know how hard it can be to manage sibilance. Sibilance is the S, T, and other high frequency sounds in the vocal. And if you don't treat them the right way in the mix, it's going to make the vocal sound harsh. In this video, I'm going to give you some tips for controlling sibilance to make it sound more natural, smooth, and professional. By the end of this video, you're going to have the tools and knowledge you need to get rid of harshness and still make your vocals sound crystal clear in the high end. I'm going to simplify each step of the process and give you some practical tips to improve your vocal mixes today. Let's get started. So we know that sibilance is the S, T, CH, or any other high frequency sound that we make whenever we're speaking or singing. And the first place that things can go wrong with sibilance is during the actual performance and recording. Take a listen to this vocal we're going to be working with today and pay special attention to the sibilance.
I can see that you done grown up. Guess we haven't kept up enough. Been a minute since you've been on my brain, baby.
Okay, so you probably noticed a lot of things that aren't working with the sibilance in this vocal. Now, it's possible that the microphone that was used wasn't the best fit for this particular vocalist. Maybe they just have a very prominent sibilance when they sing. There could be many reasons why it sounds this way. And of course, if we were sitting with the vocalist and producing the vocals as we go, we would probably try to coach them to soften up some certain sibilance sounds, maybe try to position the mic a little bit differently so that they weren't going directly into the capsule, maybe just a little bit off might soften some of those sibilants. But unfortunately, we don't have that luxury because this is the vocal that was recorded and we have to make it work. And that's where the techniques that we're going to cover in this video are going to come in really handy. Now, it's important to note that there's probably not going to be one trick that's going to solve all the problems with a sibilant vocal. It's going to require a combination of techniques that we'll cover in this video. And by piecing those together and doing a little bit here and a little bit there, it's going to ultimately get us the result we want. So I'm going to start dialing in this vocal chain with Xvox Pro. And along the way, I'll show you a bunch of different tricks that we can use to kind of tame the sibilance little bit by little bit. Take a listen to it as we start adding some compression.
I can see that you done grown up. Guess we haven't kept up enough. I can see that you done grown up. Guess we haven't kept up enough.
So just the compression by itself is going to bring out the sibilance a little bit. It's not terrible yet, but it is bringing that sibilance out a little bit more than we would like. But with Xvox Pro, we can actually help that with this comp color control. If we push this comp color control up, it's going to naturally get a darker compression. And that's going to kind of help us round off some of those sibilants a little bit more. Take a listen to what this does.
I can see that you done grown up. I can see that you done grown up.
So you notice as we push that color way up, all of a sudden it's almost suppressing the sibilance more. And so it's getting that darker kind of richer color to this compression.
I can see that you done grown up.
Now that's a bit extreme. I'd probably want to see it somewhere in this like 130% range here.
I can see that you done grown up.
And it's very smooth sounding now. So that's helping us control the sibilance a little bit. It's not perfect yet, but we're getting a little bit more control over it with this comp color. So next up, I would generally move to EQ. So you can see if we go crazy with the high end here, it may not sound bad during the rest of the vocal, but whenever that sibilance hits, it's going to sound pretty harsh.
I can see that you done grown up.
Obviously, we don't want to make the problem worse, but that doesn't mean we can't lift the high end of the vocal. Let me show you a trick I like to use in this situation. I'm going to pull the highs down and push the air plus up. Now the air plus is going to excite those high frequencies. It's going to make it sound really airy and give it that polish. But pulling the highs down is going to let us actually reduce some of those harsh high frequencies. And this combination works really well whenever you have harsh sibilance.
I can see that you done grown up. I can see that you done grown up. I can see that you done grown up.
When you take the tone module out, you can really hear how big of a difference this tone module is making. It's really adding a ton of air, but it's really not contributing to the harshness of the vocal in any way.
I can see that you done grown up. I can see that you done grown up.
Now, something else I like to do is flip over to this NYC mode, and you can see that the curves on this mode give us a lot of fine control, especially when we're cutting. Now, I might even boost some of the mids and maybe even the lows to give it some body. Let's dial the rest of this EQ in.
I can see that you done grown up. Guess we haven't kept up enough. Been a minute since you've been on my brain, baby. Should've made a move back then. Maybe we could still get in.
So after dialing in this EQ, we're getting a much richer, fuller, and livelier vocal tone, but we're not contributing to the harshness. Take a listen before and after what we've done so far with Xvox Pro.
I can see that you done grown up. I can see that you done grown up. I can see that you done grown up.
So already we've got a much brighter vocal without bringing out a ton of harshness. But now we need to look at the De-Esser. Now the De-Esser is an obvious tool to use whenever you have a sibilant vocal. But if you overdo it, if you rely too much on just the De-Esser to fix the problem, a lot of times what happens is you start to dull out the rest of the vocal, and we don't want to do that. Now we've done a good job of managing the S before it hits the De-Esser. So let's just try dialing this in.
I can see that you done grown up. Guess we haven't kept up enough.
Now generally with a really harsh sibilance, there's going to be kind of an emphasis on one particular frequency range. And that's why this DS focus is really helpful for dialing in the De-Esser. We can actually push this up or down to really zero in on the problem frequencies for this vocal. Now in this particular vocal, it sounds like it's higher frequencies. Whenever you have that kind of piercing S or T sound, generally it's a bit higher. Whereas kind of the traditional harsh sibilance is usually a little bit lower, like 3 or 4K. But let's take a listen as we dial this in.
Guess we haven't kept up enough. Been a minute since you've been on my brain, baby.
So yeah, somewhere around that 8K is sounding really nice. It's allowing us to just target the S's a lot better. And that's helping us get a little bit more out of this De-Esser. Now with a De-Esser, you want it to be hyper transparent. You don't really want to hear the De-Esser working. And that's one of the reasons I love the Xvox Pro De-Esser is it's super transparent, super easy to dial in. But whatever De-Esser you choose, just make sure you're not adding a bunch of artifacts or really crushing the sound on the high end, making it sound dull. So this is a great starting point. Obviously, we'll add some reverb and delay.
Guess we haven't kept up enough. Been a minute since you've been on my brain, baby. Should've made a move back then. Maybe we could still get in.
So overall, I'm really liking how this vocal is sitting now, but there's still a few spots that are sticking out. And what I'm about to show you is what separates the amateur mixes from the truly great mixes. It's this attention to detail that is going to help you elevate the quality of your mixes to that professional level. And in this case, it requires a little bit of manual de-essing. Manual de-essing is just editing the waveform to better control the sibilance. A lot of pros even like to start with manual de-essing before they dial in any of their vocal chain. And this is not a bad idea, especially if you know the vocal has a sibilant problem. So let me show you how to do this and some tips for doing it well. So some of these sibilants are pretty extreme. You can see them here in the waveform.
I can see that you done grown up.
And they're hitting the De-Esser pretty hard. I'm actually going to back this off while I'm working on it.
I can see that you done grown up.
So all we need to do to manually de-ess this vocal is just cut around the region and then bring the gain down of the S sound.
See that you done. See that you done.
So you can see how much smoother it sounds just by bringing this down a few dB. You could probably do the same thing on this vocal.
I can see that you done.
Now why this is so great is we can really fine tune where we're targeting with these S's. Maybe we want to bring the entire S down like this.
I can see that you done.
Or maybe we want to bring this part down even more than the first part.
I can see that you done.
Right, we have total control over how we're manipulating these S's.
Guess we haven't kept up.
So as you go through this, you'll start to learn what an S and T looks like. And once you know that, it's pretty quick to go through a vocal and just manually de-ess it, really tuck in the sibilance perfectly.
Guess we haven't kept up enough.
So here's another thing you can do to elevate the performance. Sometimes the sibilance that the vocalist uses doesn't quite have the right feel. So take a listen to this part and pay attention to where they say kept up, that T on kept.
Guess we haven't kept up enough.
It sounds okay, but it would be cooler if that was a softer sibilant sound. It would just make the performance feel a little bit more laid back. So I'm going to go back and find a better consonant sound to use there.
I can see that you done grown up.
So actually this D sound is a little bit cooler sounding and it might work for the T. So I'm going to cut around the D sound I'm going to copy it over, and I'm going to paste it on this kind of harsh T sound here. Now we can see that the D that we just pasted in is way softer and shorter than the T. And let's take a listen to what it sounds like.
Guess we haven't kept up enough.
It just sounds so much tighter. It's like a better performance. You can't really tell at all that it was a D sound from earlier. It just sounds like a better pronunciation for this particular vocal.
Guess we haven't kept up enough. Been a minute since you've been on my...
Same thing on the word since. Take a listen to the sibilance here.
Been a minute since you've been on my...
It's just kind of piercing and harsh, so I'm going to find a better S to use there.
I can see that you done grown. See that...
This C might be a better sibilant sound. Let's take a listen and pop this in here.
Minute since you've been on... Minute since you've been on...
Now, it might take a little bit of playing around with some different options here, but I kind of think this one will work better.
Been a minute since you've been on my brain, baby. Been a minute since you've been on... Been a minute since you've been on my...
So it's just a little bit more pleasant of an S sound, and it's making the entire performance feel way more solid.
Been a minute since you've been on my brain, baby.
So if you want your vocal to be flawless, even with a great singer like this, you need to be able to nitpick all the different details, and you might even need to do some surgical editing like this to fly in different sibilant sounds, maybe consonant sounds, and really just work that vocal until it sounds flawless. Remember, we're not trying to go for perfect. We don't want it to be robotic, but we want it to be flawless. We want it to feel like the best possible performance that this vocalist could give. And little things like this make it sound so much more solid. So take a listen to these first couple lines that we manually de-essed and dialed in with a better vocal chain.
I can see that you done grown up. Guess we haven't kept up enough. Been a minute since you've been on my brain, baby. I can see that you done grown up. Guess we haven't kept up enough. Been a minute since you've been on my brain, baby.
It instantly improves the entire performance and feel of this vocal. And this is the type of attention to detail that pros do all the time, and it's one of the things that really separates a pro mix from an amateur mix. So to recap, this is what I would do to this vocal to try to save it and get it to be the level that we want it to be for this track. First, I like to evaluate the performance and determine if the sibilance is going to be a problem. Some vocalists have really clear and pronounced sibilance. Others have a little bit more controlled sibilance. It doesn't mean they're a bad singer if they have a lot of S and T sounds, but it does mean we'll have to address it in the mix later. Now, if we notice the vocal needs some help, I'm going to pay very close attention as I'm building the chain to try to chip away at the sibilance along the way. I'm going to start with a compressor that we can darken up and get more color out of, really rounding off the high end. I'm going to pay attention to what EQ I use. I might do tricks like I did here where I'm pushing the air plus slider up and pulling the high slider down to get a little bit more controlled air without the harshness. I'll also really focus on the De-Esser and make sure that focus frequency is set to the best possible setting, just to make sure we're really targeting the harsh spot of the sibilance. And of course, I would do some type of manual de-essing, really controlling the sibilance at the waveform level. It's going to give us the right amount of control to make this vocal flawless. So try these techniques out the next time you're dealing with a sibilant vocal. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe for more tutorials like this, and as always, happy mixing.